For this episode of the Mindvalley podcast, I wanted to bring you guys something rather out of the ordinary. So I'm recording this in Tallinn, Estonia. We just finished the world's longest personal growth festival, Mindvalley University, which spans 21 days. And there was this workshop facilitator that we brought in, Dawn Hoang. She's the guest of today's episode. Hi there, Dawn.
Hi.
Nice to have you here. But here's what happened. Dawn was tasked with giving 2 workshops on a concept called Kundalini Awakening. And we're going to be talking about that, and it's wild. But she gives these 2 workshops, and she ends up being voted as one of the best facilitators at the event. People are talking about how, as she's doing these workshops and they're lying on yoga mats, they're feeling energy circulating around them. People are feeling, they're getting what we often call Kundalini ripples. This is where you're lying on your back and you feel so much energy flowing up your spine that you flop around, sometimes like a fish. But it's a good feeling. So I experienced Dawn's workshops as well. It wasn't my first Kundalini Awakening experience, but I could feel energy pouring out of my hands. I could feel these ripples going up my body. And after that, I just felt so good. I want to read out some of the things that people said when they experienced these workshops, because if you haven't tried this, the Kundalini Awakening is one of the most beautiful experiences you can have. So one lady said, "One of the best experiences I've ever witnessed. The container was so safe and amazing. Dawn was exceptional." Another said, "Dawn was absolutely exceptional. Her Kundalini Awakening was absolutely life-changing for me. She is a light, and I'm so excited to go deeper with her." So this concept of the Kundalini Awakening is real. People experience it all around the world. They experience it during Kundalini activation workshops, like what Dawn just did. They experience it during neuro training. I'm going to tell you a crazy, nearly unbelievable story about what happened to me in relation to this when I was going through neuro training at 40 years of Zen. And some people experience it during sex, during meditation. But the question is, what is going on? What are these ripples of energy that flow through our body? And why do so many people say that once they experience it, they keep re-experiencing it, and they start noticing different things in their life? They notice a greater connection to themselves. They notice greater intuition. They notice that the dreams in their head manifest faster. So this is going to be our topic of exploration on this Mindvalley podcast. It's going to be more a sit-down conversation style. I want you to just listen to the stories that you hear. It's okay if you're a skeptic. Science can't explain this yet. I can't really explain it. I don't fully understand it. But I know that when I've experienced this, I've had incredible things happen in my life. So keep an open mind, and let's welcome to the Mindvalley podcast the Kundalini Awakening facilitator and energy healer and intuit psychic, Dawn Hoang. I've known Dawn for 14 years, and she's remarkable at what she does. Dawn, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here and to be sharing about the Kundalini activation process and its method and how it unlocks people's power and their true innate intelligence to go and awaken to different parts of their body that will awaken the inner healer, your own inner guru, and that gives you all the deep wisdom and insight that you would ever need in your life that's very personal and unique to you and your life purpose, as well as awakening your own inner psychic, giving you prophetic visions along your path and your destiny that comes so clear. It's like epiphanies or prophetic visions.
Yeah, and I'm so curious about that because working with you, you've been able to channel some really interesting things. So we're going to talk about the whole spectrum of these transpersonal experiences, right? Now, before we get started, I just want to explain a concept to our users. So Ken Wilber, the academic and philosopher, talks of this concept called the pre-trance policy. And the pre-trance policy is an explanation of why many people, particularly people that you find who consider themselves science-based or engineers or maybe Wall Street types, they think that everything that has to do with spirituality is bunk.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Ken Wilber explains it this way, and you can Google pre-trance policy. There's amazing articles on it on Wikipedia and on the general internet. So if you look at the evolution of people's understandings of spirituality, there was the age of magic and religion, right? This was hundreds of years ago, people believed that anything, lightning is the gods being angry. A woman who had intuition was burned at stake for being a witch. It was the age of magic. People believed in magic. And then came the age of rationality. And the age of rationality brought us science, it brought us engineering, it brought us the industrial age. But in the 1990s and beyond, science started discovering that there was more to the world than just what is physical. For example, Daniel Goleman, in his book Altered Traits, talks about studies on meditation. And studies on meditation went through an exponential rise starting in 2010. That's just 14 years ago. I mean, we met in 2010. Mm-hmm. Before 2010, there were not that many studies on meditation. After 2010, it shot up exponentially. Now today, everyone meditates. When I first started talking about meditation before 2010, I was embarrassed to tell my friends because they thought it was like too woo-woo. Mm-hmm. Today, 50% of the Fortune 100 has meditation classes for their employees. Now, the difference is pre-trance and post-trance. So the pre-trance policy says that if you are a rational individual, right? If you're over here, you only see the spectrum of what lies over here. Science, engineering, everything acceptable by science. And you know that there's a past, a human past, which is the era of belief in magic, but you don't know that there is a recent development in our human society, which is trans-rational spirituality. So trans-rational spirituality is meditation, it's yoga, it is Reiki, it's energy healing, it's acupuncture, which is covered by many insurance companies right now. It's things about our energy body, about our spiritual dimension that science is exploring. It cannot explain just yet, but science is exploring. That's trans-rational. So there is a pre-rational spirituality and a trans-rational spirituality, but there are people who call themselves rationalists who collapse both. Mm-hmm. And so they look at Kundalini Awakenings, and they may look at meditation, and they may look at hypnotherapy and go, all of that is bogus, all of that is magic. They are wrong. And if you're a skeptic, you probably fall in that category. You are falling for a intellectual fallacy. You're confusing trans-rational and pre-rational. I don't believe in pre-rational spirituality. I don't believe in witches. I don't believe in burning bushes. I don't believe in some of the magic of the past. But I believe in Kundalini Awakenings because I've seen it. I believe in manifesting because I've literally seen evidence for it in the form of healing. I believe in past lives because I've seen hypnotherapists regress people to past lives. I've experienced that. I believe in astral projection because I've experienced it. I believe in situations of mind over matter because I've gone to ashrams in India and seen kids who can do this. I believe in intuition because science says it's real. And in fact, in the book Conscious Universe by Dean Radin, PhD, he looks at all the scientific evidence for all of these things, and he says that there are 4 phenomena that we cannot argue against. Past lives, mind over matter, healing, which also includes the energy body, and then concepts like astral projection. So I want you to have an open mind, and in this conversation, we're going to talk about as much of this trans-rational spirituality that we can. So first, Dawn, in your mind, what is a Kundalini Awakening?
So what Kundalini Awakening means to me is that when you're working with whatever modality that is to awaken the Kundalini, whether it's Kundalini yoga, whether it's like different kinds of breath work, whether it's somatic exercises that can also awaken the Kundalini. There's also like we experience Kundalini through things that bring us joy and pleasure. So it could be incredible sex. It could be listening to some amazing music or going on an amazing adventure. And that energy wakes up and we get this little tickle in our stomach. We get this burst of joy, this burst of bliss or passion. And in some cases too, when people get their Kundalini awakening, they'll get these short bursts, like when they're doing hallucinogen medicine. So like ayahuasca, DMT, psilocybin, people will have this experience where their body will automatically start to shake or shimmer or give you ripples as you share it, which I think is a really beautiful way of describing a Kundalini experience.
Yeah.
But Kundalini is that primal life force energy that exists in all things. It's found in every atom, and it's what is the life force energy that's created by the cosmos. It creates everything in this world. Kundalini energy is the force of creation. It's this passionate source of energy that just wants to constantly create itself. And so when we go through this experience of wakening up the Kundalini, sometimes people will go through a spontaneous Kundalini awakening, as I shared, where they're experiencing something that creates pleasure or joy. But when you're also in a Kundalini awakening experience, when you are laying down and you're listening to music and you're just open to receiving, that energy is a feminine energy. It is the most highest level of the divine feminine energy that's flowing through you. So when you're laying down and relaxing and listening to music, what the music does is it helps to shut off the mind. And it gives your mind a little bit of a place to focus on and to go on a journey. But really, when you're in a space, when you're working with somebody who is a Kundalini facilitator, they are channeling that frequency of that cosmic Kundalini energy that's emitting from them, and it matches with the other people that are in the space, whether it's an individual, they're doing a one-on-one session, or there's a group session that is happening. The person that's facilitating, such myself, we're channeling the cosmic Kundalini energy, and each person is like a tuning fork. And whatever energy that resonates with the energy of the facilitator, it will start to move through that person, and that person might be experiencing it through many of their predominant senses of feeling, seeing, knowing, hearing, an inner voice, an external voice, or it causes movement in their body, a kinesthetic experience.
Let's play some photos of the Kundalini sessions that you were doing right here at Mindvalley. So check out these photos, and you can see Dawn's on stage, and there are maybe 40 to 60 people in the room. They're lying on yoga mats, and that's when we would start to observe these things. And I was there as well, and I'm going to try to demonstrate, okay, what I felt. So imagine I'm lying on my yoga mat, and it's kind of like this. I'm feeling this like energy going through my body. It's hard to explain. If you felt it, you know what I mean. And after I had my first Kundalini Awakening, which was in 2017, I get these, I call them the ripples. I get these ripples quite frequently. It happens during mind-blowing sex. It happens when I'm during a plant medicine ceremony. I was doing a peyote ceremony with indigenous Native American tribes in a desert in California, and for 8 hours I was just trying to sit still and meditate, but I kept having these ripples. And so once the Kundalini awakens, does it always stay awakened?
Yeah.
Can anything close it back?
That's a very good question. I think what can close it is fear. Fear will close it. You can do things to block it by fear, by suppressing it, just like emotions or things that we're trying to avoid. So you can block it, but the energy will continue to rise. It'll still continue to rise. It'll persist because it's your own divine intelligence. So once it starts waking up, like every time you do something that awakens the Kundalini, it starts to expand more and more and more. And this is your divine intelligence. It's more smarter than your brain. It's smarter than any aspect of your body. So it'll continue to grow because when it starts to awaken, it's your time to start remembering who you are, to remember your power.
Right. So when you start experiencing it, it's like you're leveling up spiritually.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
That when I researched this across all of the articles, they seem to say the same thing. Like once you awaken, you start having moments of intuition, moments of meditation. And just tell us, the Kundalini, where exactly in the body is that?
Yeah, it's at the base of your spine. It's coiled at the root chakra.
I see.
And usually it's the symbolism is a snake because of the way the energy coils down at the bottom. And then when it starts to awaken or rise, it starts to move up your spine all the way to the top of your crown chakra and above. And then it meets with the cosmic Kundalini energy from above. And then it goes back down. So it's the symbol of the caduceus.
I see.
Yeah.
And that's why when people feel it, they're feeling these like ripples in their upper body. Mm-hmm. And it seems to start from the base.
Yes, from the base.
Right.
And that's why you do the ripples. So some people do like some shaking. Some people move like literally like slithering like a snake.
It was fascinating.
Yeah.
And we don't really have too much video of people experiencing the ripples because we didn't want to violate anyone's privacy. And when someone's going through a spiritual experience, you don't want to put a camera in their face. So we have still photographs where you can see people lying on the mats. So it's this energy that's at the base of the spine. And then when it's awakened, it shoots up your spine.
Yes.
And now I read somewhere that what it's believed to indicate is that all your chakras are aligned. And Kundalini itself and chakras come from ancient Hindu, Indian philosophy, correct?
Yeah, so it goes beyond ancient Hindu philosophy. It's found in multiple traditions around the world. So, but Hinduism, they studied it the most. They went the deepest, and they found different techniques to awaken it. They were the most passionate. So therefore, in the Hindu tradition, they have the most knowledge when it comes to this. But you actually will find this, the Kundalini, the snake symbol, found in many different cultures. In ancient Egypt, they had the Hermes, the Hermetic knowledge. They had the caduceus, that was a symbol. In ancient Sumerian traditions, they were a culture that studied and worshipped the goddess energy. And there is actually a old ancient goddess where she's part jaguar and part eagle. And in it, you see the snake, the caduceus of the snake, and also the pineal gland, which is represented in many cultures as the pine cone. And so you often see the snake and the pine cone often put together in all these ancient cultures.
What has the pineal gland got to do with the Kundalini?
Yeah, so when the Kundalini starts to awaken, when it goes up all your chakras, it goes straight to your pineal gland, which is your intuitive center. It's your psychic center. And when it starts to open and awaken, when the Kundalini opens up and awakens it, you experience enlightenment because you have now a deep connection between you and source. And you start to see yourself in all your energetic bodies, your soul body, your spiritual body, as well as your physical body aligning. And you have this experience of that. So a lot of time when people are doing plant medicine, like DMT, they might see this eye, like vision, and same thing in ayahuasca. And that is the awakening of the third eye or the awakening of the pineal gland.
I see. So that third eye concept is the awakening of the pineal gland.
Yes.
This is so fascinating. So I'd love to share a story. And it's because of this experience in this story, this is really why I wanted to have you on this interview. I can't remember if I've shared this in any previous interview before, but it's a crazy story. And to this day, I cannot explain what I experienced. So what happened was, it was 2017. And my friend Dave Asprey invited me to his neurotraining facility called 40 Years of Zen. So what they found at 40 Years of Zen, which is based in Seattle, is that you can map the brainwave states of monks who have meditated for 20 to 40 years. And you'd notice certain brainwave patterns. For example, high alpha amplitude. So their alpha waves have really high amplitude. And then left-right brain coherence, right? And then sometimes monks would have some other unique qualities like one of the things that the scientists, and so these are scientists running it, the 40 Years of Zen told me, is they found that certain people who were lucky, people who were, making things happen, really lucky, their brain waves could go to the delta frequency, which is the frequency where normal people are asleep, but they could do it awake. They would produce delta waves in their brains while awake. And so I remember one scientist telling me, this is potentially associated with manifesting power. If you can train this, you manifest faster. Okay, so I go to the facility because Dave's my friend, and we decide to do some of the training. So I'm sitting on this chair. I have these electrodes on my brain, like 12 different points on my brain, and the scientists are playing different frequencies to train my brain to replicate the brainwave states of these monks. So 40 Years of Zen found that, now it's expensive, it costs 15 grand. It's 5 days, and they found that in 5 days, they can change your brainwave states for the long term to give you the brain of a monk. So that's why it's called 40 Years of Zen. You're getting 40 years of potentially Zen meditation in 5 days, right? So again, I'm here, I'm in that room, I have my eyes closed, I'm hearing the sound frequencies, I'm doing whatever they need me to do, I'm trying to concentrate, and then I feel one of these scientists come and prank me. The guy comes and starts shaking my chair, so I'm thinking, what the fudge is this guy doing? Why is he shaking my chair? Like, I'm moving like that. Why? What's the point of this? And I thought, okay, maybe this is a test. Maybe he's trying to break my concentration. So all of a sudden, like I grabbed the chair and I realized, wait, the chair's not shaking. My body is shaking. Something is shaking my body. I'm not shaking my body. Something is shaking my body. And then all of a sudden, with my eyes closed, I go into this red vortex and I see like clouds and lights. It's bizarre, this red vortex. And I feel this voice talk to me and this powerful voice. And I go into an altered state. I've only experienced these type of things on maybe ayahuasca, maybe plant medicine, but I go into this altered state and this voice tells me, and it's coming really fast, and I'm getting these thought impulses. It's not words, it's thoughts. You have to grow your company this way because you're helping improve lives. Mindvalley has to be bigger. You got to go here, you got to go here, you got to go here. I'm seeing all of these visions. And then the voice goes, and this is how you manifest. And then it starts teaching me a technique which I now call merging. And I get this technique of manifesting, and I now teach this technique in my Be Extraordinary course on Mindvalley. It's the final chapter of the course. But merging is basically where you do not see the visual of what you want to manifest. You feel the resonant energy, and then you magnify that energy, right? So I see a vision of what I'm supposed to create, and I'm given a tool on how to manifest that vision. And then boom, I come out of it. So now the session is over. An hour has elapsed. The lights come on. I come out of the chamber, and I step outside, and I see two scientists over there, and they're like, what on earth did you do? So I'm like, what do you mean? And the scientist goes, look, we're looking at your charts, and your brain went into waking delta, and then they showed me my charts. My brain was producing tons of waking delta frequency, which is the frequency that they observed with manifesting. And normally you cannot do this unless you're asleep, but I wasn't asleep. I mean, my body was moving. I was talking to this higher power, I hope higher power. And so the scientists were really fascinated, and I was thinking, wow, this is really cool. But then I forgot about it. So now a month elapses. It's September, I believe it's September 18 or 19, 2017, okay? And I'm sitting at my computer. I'm back home in Malaysia. I'm working on some stuff, and an intuition emerges. Okay, so what I experienced with the ripples, I thought my chair was moving. That was a Kundalini Awakening. And, you said when you have a Kundalini Awakening, you suddenly start going into the next stage of your spiritual development, intuition manifesting. So first thing that comes to me, this is just 4 weeks later, is intuition. And intuition says, check your book on Amazon. So I'm like, what? And I'd written a book. The book was in the New York Times. Then it fell off the New York Times. And then, it was like a mediocre success. And I wish the book would have done better. It was called Code of the Extraordinary Mind. But if you're an author, once the book is out, like, you're done. Like, the baby is out. You are not checking your rankings. So I'm like, I don't want to check my rankings. No matter what I check, I'm going to be disappointed. So screw it. I'm not going to check my rankings. And I hear that voice again, check your book on Amazon. So I open up Amazon. I go to the author panel. I look up my book, and it says, Vishen Lakhiani, #2 best-selling author on Amazon. And #1 was like some Mexican author. Below me, #3 was Hillary Rodham Clinton. And below that, I believe, was Tolkien. This is an actual screenshot. And I'm thinking, Amazon is broken. How can I, Vishen, be the #2 author on Amazon globally? And so I look at my book rankings, and my book is #2 in the world of all the millions of books on Amazon. And the previous day, it was #1.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, how on earth did my book, The Code of the Extraordinary Mind, suddenly rise to #1 on Amazon? That's absolutely insane. But notice what happened. An intuitive impulse made me check Amazon, even though I was resistant to it. And then one of my desires to be a best-selling author suddenly manifested. I was not writing it down. I was not thinking about it. It just happened. So my book went on to hit the #1 spot on Amazon 5 times between September and November. Why that happened is a different story. Amazon Prime was doing a promotion. My book was very sticky, and how Kindle ranks books is that if you read past the first 10 pages, it's counted as a read. My book was so sticky, many people got to page 11. Book became the #1 book in the world. I overtook the combined works of J.K. Rowling, Hillary Clinton, Tolkien. It was wild,
Wow.
right? But all of that happened within a month of my Kundalini Awakening. So that's my story. And here's a screenshot to actually prove that story, because I know the story is crazy. But I'm curious, how would you interpret that? What do you think is going on?
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things I'm most passionate about with Kundalini Awakening process is like that it's exactly what you just described. it awakens your divine intelligence, and it goes and it maximizes the speed and efficiency to what is your life purpose. So it moves you into whatever is most aligned with whatever it is that you're here to do to serve the world. Really, the purpose of awakening your Kundalini is for service. It's to serve others by living to your fullest potential. And when you're in this state of heightened enlightenment, which that's what you experience when you were in 40 years of Zen, is like the divine consciousness came and spoke to you. It could be higher, your higher self. It could be source, whatever. And it taught you, it reminded you of how you can manifest with this energy through the quantum field. And so you went into the quantum field and you put out your desire, and then it matched your desire. And it sped it up to the point where you physically got to see the manifestation of it.
Right. But I wasn't even intending that.
Yeah.
I was maybe in the back of my mind, I was thinking, because I put so much effort in the book, I was thinking, I want this book to do better. But I wasn't even like consciously trying to manifest.
Right.
That.
Well, because again, like it's awakening your divine intelligence. So it's helping you to accelerate you on your life purpose path.
I see.
Yeah. And so part of your purpose was to share this message.
To spread enlightened ideas.
Yeah. To spread enlightened ideas. Yeah.
Wow.
To the masses.
Right.
So, and that is for service for so many people. Right.
Do you believe that there's a higher power guiding us through life?
Yes, I definitely do. I've been guided by the higher power since I was a kid. I was in tune through nature. I could feel it, and I knew it speaking to me. And that's why it got me on this path of discovering spirituality and religion and mysticism, because I wanted to learn what it was that I was experiencing through my senses of feeling, seeing, and knowing. And I would often hear a voice come and speak to me through that. So I really do, because I've been guided by this energy my whole life.
Right.
And even though I've dealt with like doubting that there is a higher power, I somehow always still followed that like sense, that energy. I wanted to understand it because I felt its magic, and it brought me so much joy, even when seeing in the world of so much suffering, but there was so much beauty at the same time. I wanted to understand what this essence that was constantly speaking to me through these different senses.
So I noticed you said the word source energy, higher power. And I know that in this field, like words are hard, right?
Yeah.
Because we have different words for it. But when you say source energy, higher power, is this the same as God to you?
Yeah, this is the same as God to me. I use those different terms because I work with people from all different kind of spiritual beliefs to religions, because I really feel like, let's just call it source is God. Some people label it as God, but some people label it as Buddha. Some people label it as Muhammad. Some people label it as so many different things, goddess, right? And I think really God or source energy is universal. It's often like looking at a painting. We all have different perspectives of how we look at it and how we choose to see and what impressions we get from that painting. I've always had that philosophy since I was 14 years old, because I really wanted to understand this essence that I kept on being guided by. And I was like, well, I love all these people, and they come from all these different religions, from all these different cultures. They have different accents. They love different food. And so why do we have to exclude one person or another, or exclude one person's belief system or another? Why can't it be universal? And so through it, through my journey and through all the things I've experienced, and I've experienced a lot through religion to mysticism and energy modalities, and just putting myself in other people's shoes, I really started to see that, the underlining messages, when you take away all the dogma, there's definitely different teachings that are in it. They are all universal and all consistent.
That's beautiful.
So I just use source.
Could you tell our audience about your background?
Yeah. So my background is my dad is predominantly Vietnamese. Vietnamese. I say it with an accent. And but my dad has a little bit of Indian in him, Hindu Indian, and then my mother, and then he also has French in him. And then my mother is a mixed American European mutt. She's Scottish, some German, and a little bit Swedish and Native American. So as a kid, I already knew, like, I had a lot of different mixes within me.
Right.
Yeah, and I really appreciated that. And so for me, it helped me to see that I can really connect with a lot of people from all over the world.
Yeah, well, I guess, I mean, if the universe was choosing a young kid to bless with these powers, you'd be a pretty good choice because you had Native American blood, Indian blood, Vietnamese, which is Asian blood, and then European blood as well. Like you represent so many different cultures.
Yeah.
Now you said you started noticing these like things when you were young. Could you share a couple of stories? Like, were you born with this gift or did you develop and train it?
Yeah. No, I was born with this gift, but I didn't know it was a gift. I was just very introverted, very shy as a child, and parents would take us out into nature a lot.
Right.
And when we were out in nature, I would immediately start to feel this expansive energy like flowing from, the grass to the rocks to the flowers to the trees, and I'd feel it speaking to me. And it felt so harmonious and beautiful and expansive. And there was so much information that was speaking to me. And so when I would speak back to it, I'd speak often in poetry to it.
Wow.
It would cause me to speak in like poetry and rhyme. And it just, because I could feel its flow. And it often was teaching me so much about the cycle of nature, about the cycle of humans and patterns and things like that. And I just felt this peacefulness and this beauty that, so I thought everybody felt that, and I often liked being alone so I could be one with that energy. And that's that kind of energy you get when you go into meditation. And I didn't realize that. It was something that was very natural and innate within me. But also as a kid, like, because I'm so empathic and intuitive, but again, I thought everybody has this ability. I would often, go up to people and start talking to them about what they were feeling and experiencing in their life. So like, for instance, I remember my friend from next door, I started talking to her and saying, "Oh my gosh, are you okay?" And she had a happy face on and she was trying to hide that she was going through a hard time and her dog had died. And I started to talk about, "How's your dog? I feel like something's wrong with your dog." And then she starts crying and she said her dog was injured. And then they had to take the dog to the vet, to put it down. Yeah.
You just sensed that.
I just sensed that. Yeah.
That's some pretty powerful intuition.
Yeah.
And may I share a story about psychic reading that you gave me?
Yes.
So just want to address the audience. So intuition is real. There's overwhelming scientific evidence for it. I explained the concept of the pre-trance policy and why some people insist that it isn't real and the science is like junk. I had this discussion with Neil deGrasse Tyson. Totally stubborn. He says intuition is not real. The science is bunk. He's wrong. He just has to read Dean Radin's book, Conscious Universe, and he has to be aware that he's falling for the pre-trance policy. So here's the intuitive experience I had with Dawn. So I was living in LA in 2010 for about a month. My family and I like to move around and experience different cities. And we were staying in Santa Monica. And I can't remember how we got connected, but someone said, "Hey, you got to get this like intuitive reading from this person." So I get this intuitive reading from you. And at that point, I was speaking on other people's stages. So I was speaking on other people's stages about entrepreneurship, about, being a startup entrepreneur. And we were doing this intuitive reading, and you told me something I would never forget. So you said, "Vishen, I see all your chakras light up when you have created your own stage, your own platform for speaking, not just speaking on other people's stage." Do you remember that?
Yes, I definitely vividly remember that. Yeah.
So help the audience understand, how did that message come to you? And then I'm going to tell the audience what happened next with that advice.
Yeah, definitely. How that message came to me is that when I do readings, intuitive readings for people, I'm an intuitive, which is same thing as being psychic. It's just another form of explaining that. And I use all my senses of feeling, knowing, seeing, even smelling energy, tasting energy. It might come to me through that method, or a knowing or voice that comes and speaks to me. Also, I do channeling. So I channel people's guides, angels, and, if you can expand your mind to other like ascended masters, people who have lived in this lifetime, who have mastered a certain level of wisdom, and we're here to serve the masses. So
that's a whole other topic, guides and angels. We're going to come to that.
Yeah.
So you're getting these messages.
Yeah. So I'm getting these messages, and I'm tuning into you. What I do is I have your energetic body project onto me. And then I start to scan your body, and it starts to tell me what's going on with you. on a physical sense, and then your guides come in and they start to give me a vision. So how I saw it for you is I saw all of a sudden that you were speaking on all these different stages, and where you speak from, you draw in like a lot of power, and you really impact the audience. You really move the audience. But then I all of a sudden got this vision that if you were to you speak and you create your own stage and you spoke from your own platform, that you would create a global community that would expand over the world, and it would take Mindvalley to a whole different level. That would be a global movement,
Right?
And you would impact millions of lives. And so when I saw you doing that, I saw you doing like your own kind of conferences mixed with celebration.
Right.
Yeah, an education.
Mixed with celebration.
Yeah.
And then, okay, so here's what happens next. So this was February. Now, March, I think it was March 2010. So this was less than a month later. I'm speaking at a marketing event, Yannick Silva's Underground in Washington, D.C. And I get on stage and I give a talk as I normally do, and I get a standing ovation. And then I remember Dawn's words, right? And I'm like, So I tell the people who are standing up, by the way, if you like me for the last 1 hour, I'm thinking maybe of creating my own type of event. 3 days, don't know where it's going to be, don't know what the topic is going to be, but tickets are going to be $2,000. And if you're interested, let's meet in, at that room over there. And it was a complete stab in the dark. 30 people showed up and bought a ticket. All of a sudden, I had $60,000 to create my own event. So I brainstormed with these 60 people, and someone says, let's do it in an exotic place like Costa Rica. So I'm like, okay, Costa Rica. And then someone else says, let's call it Awesomeness Fest. I'm like, okay, stupid name, but memorable. And I create Awesomeness Fest. It is the first event that I'd ever created of my own. And we sold out 250 people. And many amazing speakers were so taken up by the vision of the event. Lisa Nichols, Chip Conley of Airbnb, Sri Kumar Rao, the famous MBA professor, they all came and spoke. And from that Awesomeness Fest, now Mindvalley didn't exist back then. Mindvalley was a holding company. I built websites for many best-selling authors, and I created Awesomeness Fest from a blog post. I read a blog called Finer Minds. If you look at early videos of Awesomeness Fest, there's no Mindvalley. The banners at the back say Finer Minds. But Awesomeness Fest became such a powerful tool. The teachers who came on stage, we signed them, we brought them into Mindvalley, and the visuals, the style, the celebration, all came into Mindvalley. And Awesomeness Fest gave birth to the Mindvalley that we know today.
Wow.
So your vision was right on point. And it continued growing and growing and growing. And now it's 14 years later, and you just saw our 21-day Personal Growth Festival with thousands of people coming together, young and old, children and adults, in this space. And all of that, maybe I was destined to do it, but maybe it was that reading that you gave me and that message that you took from my guides and implanted into my soul that I remembered 4 days later. So anyway, I find this whole thing wild and crazy, right? Where did that message come from? Because it was so specific.
Yeah.
Yes, you're speaking on other people's stages, but you need to create your own stage. I did that, and my life was never the same again. Awesomeness Fest, now it's called A-Fest, led to the creation of Mindvalley. Mindvalley is now a company, doing close to 150 million in revenue. But it all started with that one action. And before that, Mindvalley had existed for about 6 years, and we were just kind of okay. We were building websites. We were doing okay. But your advice completely changed the trajectory. So firstly, thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for trusting in my vision. Yeah.
Now I know as people are watching, many people are going to wonder, I want to get Dawn to give me a reading. What's your Instagram?
Yeah, my Instagram is the.new.dawn.
The.new.dawn.
Yes.
The new dawn.
Yeah,
okay, but
dawn.
with a dot in between.
Yes.
The.new.dawn.
Yes.
Okay, and they can message you on Instagram. That's phenomenal. We talked about Kundalini.
Yeah.
And then you also took the subject into another really interesting area, guides and spirits.
Yeah.
Let's come back to Kundalini for a while, and then I want to go to spirit guides, okay? So in Kundalini, when you are moving through the room, I saw you walking through the room at our last Mindvalley event. There are 60 people lying on yoga mats, and you're doing something in the energy field. And these people are like flopping around like the fish, right? And I just checked the ratings. Your last session had a perfect score. Everybody gave you 5 out of 5 stars. And people said that this was life-changing for them. What are you doing?
Yeah. So what I'm doing is it's so related to my intuitive gifts and to my ability to be a channel. And so over the years of all the spiritual training that I've ever done, it awakened this other layer of my intuition, which is being a channel. So it's not just channeling guides and entities or higher level beings, but it's also just channeling energy. So when I'm doing Kundalini activation, what happens is I am opening myself up to the Kundalini, the cosmic Kundalini, along with it matches and goes down into my own Kundalini energy.
So you feel an energy going through?
Yes. Yeah. Kind of almost like an energy, like a waterfall, like a gentle waterfall that's pouring through. And I'm like the conduit or like an antenna that is channeling to that frequency that is the Kundalini, cosmic Kundalini. And when that happens, it just pours into the space for the maximum capacity of how many people are in that space.
So I saw you do it with 60 people. Could you do it with 1,000 people? Would they all get the same experience?
Yeah, I mean...
Or does it dilute?
No, it could, everyone could have that experience even in 1,000 people. But what's important is that each person gets enough assistance while they're channeling their own primal life force energy, the Kundalini energy within them. So it's important that, there's enough people to support the amount of people that are in a space.
Right.
But for one person who can it is definitely possible for them to channel for 1,000 people in a space. It's just about creating a safe container for those 1,000 people. And how you create a safe container is by having other people assist or having that person that's channeling that energy to go and give assistance to each person that's there. Because when that energy is moving through you, it's also moving through your energy blocks through your chakras. So depending on where you're at, it might move through a part of your body where you might need to clear an energy blockage. And that's the only reason why it's going through that block.
I see.
And so you could still have a block and it might bypass that and you might just have like this blissful experience while you're doing it. The next time you go and get another Kundalini activation, you might experience like some sadness that might come up, and it's hitting a block, because the next time you come back, that means you're ready for the next layer of depth of going in to clear that energy so you can start to embody more of that Kundalini.
I see. So I guess, so tell me if this is right or wrong. When we go to a gym, we are building muscle. And you go to a gym, you work out, you build muscle, and then you keep continuing to building up your muscle so you get stronger and stronger, right?
Yes.
Is a Kundalini awakening like that? Like when you get it the first time, do you hit, okay, you're now awakened?
Yeah.
When you have a Kundalini awakening, are you going from like 0 to 100? You're suddenly, boom, awakened?
Yeah.
Or are you slightly more awakened and then you do another awakening and you get more awakened and you keep getting, I guess, awakeners? No. And you keep getting more and more awakened as you get these awakenings. How does it work?
Yeah. A lot of awakenings happening. How it works in stages. It pulls off the different layers like an onion. It pulls off and it goes as deep as where you're ready to. So the more and more you surrender, the more and more you relax to this energy and the level of readiness that you're at. So I really believe that, when you first go and get a Kundalini session, most people experience it happening in stages. You're starting to remember who you are. You're starting to clear the energy that needs to be cleared. And it starts to awaken the innate gifts inside you or the innate knowledge that already exists within you. And so it happens in stages. Some people, in some cases, might be fully awakened right away, but that's due to maybe the amount of work they've done on themselves in this life. Or if you can stretch your imagination, and some people believe in past lives, maybe they've done so much past life work in all their past lives that the moment that they get a Kundalini awakening experience, they might quantum jump to a fully awakened being.
I see.
But that's generally rare and unusual. Most people, it goes gradually in stages.
I see. I see. Now, there was something else that I experienced when I had my first awakening, right? I felt like there was light shooting out of my fingertips. Not only was my body pulsating, but I felt like there was this energy going up for me, and I felt like there was light shooting out of my fingertips and out my mouth. I was literally moving my hands like that, and my mouth was open, and I felt light going out of my mouth.
Yes.
Is that a common feeling, or is that just insane?
No, that's not insane. That is common, but common in the sense of like everybody's going to experience the energy differently, right? It's going to be expressed differently. So in this instance, like you with going through your hands and out through your mouth, it's opening up all those channels, those gateways through your expression, because that's what the Kundalini energy is. It's about expressing
and it felt
yourself.
as pleasurable as an orgasm.
Yes. Yeah.
So this leads me to another question.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Kundalini comes from ancient Indian spiritual beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
How is Kundalini and Tantra related, and are they related?
Yeah, they're definitely related. The Kundalini is your primal life force energy, which is your creative life force. It's at the base of your spine and located right there. When it starts to open up, it goes into your womb and then goes all the way through all your chakras. And when you're opening up, that's that Shakti energy, which means the divine feminine energy. It's the divine feminine energy of creation. And that is a sensual energy. So when you get deeper into a Kundalini awakening, after it peels off all the layers of pain, of suffering, of blockages where you don't have foresight about things about yourself and your own existence, once it starts to awaken all those things, you get tapped back into your sexual energy, which is your power. It's a life force that is a very sacred energy that one should really be reverent of. And so in Tantra, when you're working with the tantric energy, you're also working with the Kundalini energy. When you go through learning the different tantric practices, essentially what you're doing is working with that primal life force creational energy. So that's why it exists in Tantra.
So
it goes hand in hand.
is also about awakening the Kundalini.
Yes, it's about waking up the Kundalini or working with the Kundalini.
So many questions that arise. So I've been to India, and one of the curious things about India is if you look at ancient Indian temples, on the roof of these temples, you see people engaged in sexual acts, right? Now, when the British colonized India in the 1700s, they thought this is obscene, and they imposed their Victorian standards, and these temples were abandoned. But these temples exist all around India. The Kama Sutra, for example, was part of ancient Hindu spirituality. What has sex got to do with Kundalini awakening? Is there a connection?
What is sex? Well, Kundalini is sexual energy. That's essentially what it is. Not everybody, when they first tap into it, will tap into that feeling of that sensation of sensual energy. But when you are tapping into it fully and you really are embodying it and being in tune with it, it's sexual. Because it comes within the body, it's primal, so it makes you more animalistic. But with the tantra practices, it takes that energy and rises through all your chakras to have this divine, this eternal bliss in your physical body where you feel completely blissed out and connected to your partner or partners that you're sharing and co-creating this energy. Because Tantra, the foundation of it is essentially to use your physical bodies and that physical life force energy to manifest healing, to manifest for a village, for a city, for the world on higher levels of service. So it's personal, but also to create deeper intimacy between yourself and the cosmos, or to source, or to God, whatever you want to label that as, and connection to those that you share that passionate energy with.
Because the reason I brought this up is I mentioned after I had my Kundalini awakening at Dave Asprey's 40 Years of Zen, that came from neurotraining, like literally electrodes tapped to your head. I noticed that even if I was self-pleasuring or if I was having sex with someone I was deeply connected with, I would get those ripples. And they were very joyful. They almost felt like energetic orgasms. They're really joyful. Yeah. And so that's why I was wondering about the connection, because we're talking about something spiritual, but modern society labels sex as anything but, right? Sex is disgusting. Sex is something you keep to yourself.
Yeah.
But I noticed that I would have those ripples during sex or during spiritual ceremonies. Like I mentioned, doing peyote with Native Americans, I was just having ripples for like 8 hours. And I think that's a really important thing for people to understand as well, that part of this this Kundalini awakening also has to do with the ancient Hindu practice of Tantra and conscious sex.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And, also what this primal life force is ancient knowledge. It's the most highest level of knowledge that you can embody. So when you're awakening and practicing with the Kundalini energy on top of it with Tantra, you're awakening that divine knowledge, that deep knowledge that it teaches you about how things are created. Where did you come from? Where did we all come from? And where are we going with that? And so that the snake is represented as an ancient symbol of alchemy, of transmutation and transformation. So it's taking whatever state you're in and it's transforming it into a higher state of consciousness and divine enlightenment. So it's the highest intelligence that you are now embodying and expressing into the world. So when you are, so often like sex is attacked because that is our greatest source of power, our greatest source of enlightenment. If we're talking about Kundalini, if we're talking about Tantra. And so that's why in religion, it's often demonized, or even like say in Christianity, where there's the story of Adam and Eve and the snake that gives, Eve the apple, and she's getting the apple of knowledge. But they, in Christianity, they even talk about how the snake is evil. But really, if you go past it, past that dogma, it's actually the snake is giving it, the Adam and Eve, knowledge to know what God knows, or spirit knows, or source knows.
Right.
So it's not actually evil, but in religion, they created that to suppress the power of people, so that they would be afraid of their own power, their own sexual power.
That's interesting. That's really, really, really interesting, right? Because the church, if you look at history, the Roman Empire evolved into the church.
Yes.
And the church made its money, vast amounts of money, from people coming in to pay for a service. And that service was, help me talk to God. And so it was in the best interest of the early church to tell you that you did not have a divine connection.
Yes.
That they would do the talking for you. And there would be a fee for it.
Right.
So what you're saying makes a lot of sense.
Because when you wake up the Kundalini energy, then you no longer have to rely on anyone.
Right.
You don't have to go to a psychic, even though I do readings, you know. You don't have to go.
I love that you said that.
Yeah.
I love that you just empowered the audience that they can do this themselves.
Yeah.
And you're not saying, hey, come to me.
Yes. You don't have to go to a healer, because this Kundalini energy activates the healer within you and knows you more better than the most powerful psychic or the most powerful healer, because it's your own divine intelligence and knows your deepest, darkest secrets and knows your deepest wisdom and knows you and your life purpose and why you're here and what you're meant to be doing. And so that's why I'm passionate about it, because that divine intelligence, once you release it and it starts to flow into each person, they become more of an awakened, aware, conscious, divine being that now is manifesting at a higher level and degree. And so therefore they're having a greater impact in the world that is positive, because they are feeling now so attuned to their source, their own connection. And so they're no longer relying on other people, they're relying from within. And then we get to really collaborate at a higher level in humanity, because we're in our most divine state, embodying it at a physical level.
Let's talk about manifesting for a moment. And this ties to your earlier mention of spirits and guides. Do we manifest what, I'm curious to know your view on this, are we manifesting what we want for ourselves? Or are there other forms of intelligence who have decided, okay, this soul called Dawn or this soul called Vishen, you need to create that, and we're going to push you and guide you towards creating it and manifesting it?
That is a very interesting question, because I feel like it's very complex. You know?
The reason I asked that question is because I was so stunned after having my Kundalini Awakening to see my book suddenly rise up, because that's like the goal of every author. But I never intended it for so.
Right.
So I was wondering, was there another force that was saying, okay, we're going to have to make this happen for Vishen, because that's going to lead him to do X, Y, Z, which is what we want this soul to do for the world?
I think it's two things. I think it's like a soul contract, is what I call it, where you have your kind of pre-destiny, right? But in this life, you still get to choose and create whatever you want to create in this life. But there is something that is a part of your own divine blueprint, your own divine blueprint that says, this is what I want to create in the world. This is what I want to bring into the world. And along the way, as you're living your life and you start to create what you're here to do, then I think that you have other angels and guides that are tapping into you and kind of giving you more ideas, because now you're walking on your path, serving so many people, that it kind of pushes you further. Because I come under the notion that, like, say there's 10 people on the planet and they're all given the same assignment. But within that same assignment, only maybe one of that 10 will truly serve that mission. Because I think that, like, Source isn't just going to just say, okay, this person's going to deliver this purpose in this world, because we still have choice. Right. So we can still have choice to go, I don't feel good enough, or I'm buying into the story of the way we were raised in life that says that I'm not worthy of doing it, or I'm not a risk taker. I can't go out and risk taking this crazy idea and bringing it out into the world. And so I think that there is influences from the other spirit guides or angels that are like, okay, here's this person. They're really living their truth. They're really delivering their purpose, and they have an impact. They can impact millions of people.
I love that.
And so therefore, we're going to give this person this idea. We're going to nudge them into that direction where it brings your book to number 1,
right,
or number 2,
I meet a psychic who tells me I got to start a platform.
Yeah.
Or I have to start my own event, and it leads to Mindvalley.
Yes.
So that's really interesting. It reminds me of Elizabeth Gilbert's book, Big Magic, which is a book on creativity. And she says the universe has intentions that it wants to manifest. So she says universe, you say source. And Gilbert says, and the universe will go and whisper in your ear. And you get to decide if you want to listen. The universe doesn't give a damn if you don't listen. It'll just go and whisper in someone else's ear.
Mm-hmm. It
doesn't care. After all, it's the universe. But if you listen and you take action, you will get all the resources you need to make it work.
Absolutely.
So that is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful idea. Mm-hmm. And so those intuitive hunches we get, those insights that we get, listen and act, and trust that there's a benevolent universe backing you up.
Yes. Yeah. Because I believe that, like, that's a very complicated question, because I feel like we have our own agenda, and then, like, our guides have another agenda as well.
So let's talk about guides. What are guides to you? What are guides and spirits? And do you see them and communicate with them?
Yeah. Guides to me are beings. Well, there's multiple kinds of guides. There's guides that lived in this life, and maybe in the past, from maybe different traditions and cultures, and when they pass on, they decide they want to serve as a guide to somebody to help them to deliver their purpose of what they're meant to experience in this life. And then there's guides that haven't been manifested in physical form in this physical life, and they're like kind of like angels. I would say that, like angels that have never been here before, but they're giving you spiritual advice on how to live your life. So I think that there's many kind of guides, and then you have your ancestral guides. So you have all these different types of guides, guides that are from your lineage, guides that are beings that have lived here, people who have lived here before, and then guides that are like angelic. They've never been manifested on this planet. And each one are assigned to you to help you to deliver your purpose. And your purpose can be multiple things, just experiences that you've had and you want to experience in this life. The other is to, like, how do you want to serve in this life? And then based on your level of mastery.
So there's this book I read that reminds me of what you just said. It's called Journey of Souls by Michael Newton. So Michael Newton, I forget if he was a hypnotherapist or a doctor, but he starts working with hypnosis to help patients, and he notices that he can hypnotize people to go back in time, and people would remember their past lives, right? So past lives is one of those things that there's so much scientific evidence for.
Yes.
It's crazy that we are not studying this phenomenon in a larger way. But Michael Newton also finds this. He finds that people start recalling their lives in between lives. Their lives in between lives, and they report themselves as guides or spirit guides or souls, sometimes playing and frolicking in heaven, sometimes watching over loved ones. And he says something in that book that I'll never forget. He says, every human being has a guardian angel.
Yeah.
Every human being. And so when you speak about angels and spirit guides, I'm not surprised, because I've started to believe this, because I have been in so many situations where I will literally hear a voice and it saved my life. I was driving a car in my city, and this song with the Black Eyed Peas comes on the radio, My Humps, right? And so Fergie and will.i.am are singing about my humps, and the song has got this hilarious lyrics. So I'm listening to the song, I think I was hearing it for the first time, and I love the Black Eyed Peas, and I'm so focused on the song, and all of a sudden I hear someone in the back seat say, pay attention to the road. Now, there's no one in the back seat. So I all of a sudden pay attention to the road, and I'm kind of like wondering who said that, but I'm listening. All of a sudden, a truck on my right hits the car flips up, lands in front of me, and I just have enough time to brake before what could have been a really dangerous collision. But what was that voice?
Yeah.
Where did that come from? And how did that voice know to tell me, pay attention to the road?
Right.
So I'm curious to know more about your beliefs on guardian angels and spirit guides.
There are guides, like I was sharing before, that have lived in this physical realm before, have had previous life here or lives here. And then there's some that have never been incarnated in this life that are also our guides as well. And those guides are giving us more like spiritual advice and guidance. And then the physical guides, the guides who have lived here before, are giving us guidance on how to operate in this physical plane. And so I feel like when we have these guides, their purpose here is to help us, first we live in this physical body and we're gaining knowledge and wisdom from this perspective. And then we have guides, we act as guides to others to give another observer's point of view of guiding people through an experience. And so I think that it's important let's just expand our minds to saying that if we're to be like source or to be like the universe, and we have to know what the universe knows, and say this physical playground is to learn what God, spirit, universe knows, then we are to operate from these different points of references, like to be in the physical embodiment and also act as a guide to somebody else. So you're getting multiple perspectives. So I think that when we have guides, I definitely know that we have guides just from my own experiences, like you shared, that you've had experiences where your guides will tell you about forewarning you or giving you wisdom in the moment, because in that moment you needed to come up with a solution because it was an emergency and you didn't know why you knew, but you just knew, but it came from somewhere outside of yourself. And so I think those impressions that we get are our guides guiding us along our path.
That is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thought. We are never, ever, ever, ever alone,
right?
Are we?
Right. No, I don't think we're ever alone. I think it's our belief system that makes us feel alone and make us feel isolated. But the more we open up to having a relationship to the universe, to spirit, to God, the more and more we start to see and experience that we're so much more connected than we give ourselves permission for.
We're so much more connected than we give ourselves permission for. I love that quote, Dawn. Dawn, I want to share another experience I had with you, and this was recently. After the popularity of your Kundalini sessions at Mindvalley University, several people had come up to you to ask for one-on-one healings. Now, at this event, I had a serious ankle injury, and I was limping around with a cane. And I was having difficulty going upstairs. And so I had to use a cane and pull myself to go upstairs. And you gave me a healing, and it lasted 90 minutes. I was lying on my bed, and you were working with my energy system. You hardly touched me. I think I remember you touching my shoulder or something twice, but you were working with my energy system. You had beautiful music playing in the background. And I kind of drifted on and off into sleep, but I woke up from that. And the very next day, I could climb upstairs. Now, I'm very careful to make that claim because it could have just been a coincidence. It could have been that my body was naturally recovering, but I had not been able to go upstairs unassisted for about 3 weeks. And the very next day after your healing, I was able to walk upstairs. And remember, I demonstrated it to you?
Yes.
Because the elevator at the conference center was broken. And I'm like, Dawn, check this out. And I just walked upstairs. What's going on there with these healings?
Yeah.
What exactly are you doing?
So what I'm doing in that, I think for instance, it's when the Kundalini awakened in me,
right?
It accelerated the innate gifts as a healer that I already had. Like I was sharing before, as a kid, I had natural healing abilities that I didn't even was really aware of. And that's why people would be very drawn to me, always coming to me with their problems and wanting me to like listen and hold space for them. And so as a child, I was already starting to hold space for people. And immediately when they started to, be alleviated by talking it out with me, and then I would give them some advice, immediately some transformation happened where they felt lighter and they got a solution to it. And so when I'm working with that Kundalini energy, I am channeling that cosmic Kundalini energy, and then I'm tuning into your Kundalini energy that's being awakened. And the life force energy is telling me where to flow the energy, and it just moves my body as I'm working over a client like yourself.
So you're not consciously like thinking, oh, I gotta move my hands over this part of the person's energy body. You're kind of flowing.
I'm flowing with it, and I'm just channeling. And when I'm channeling and flowing with it, the energy is guiding me to go wherever your body is telling me to flow it. And so in your case, like I was moving from the top of your head all the way down to your toes. But the second half of the session, it was telling me, I wasn't conscious about it. I wasn't like, oh, Vishen has this injury and I need to work. I'm focusing on that. I was just listening to the energy, and the way it speaks to me was like a feeling, a knowing, and a kinesthetic movement. So I kinesthetically was letting the energy guide me, and I was working over your legs and down to your toes, and then just circling this energy throughout your whole body. So we're working on different levels of your energy system, from your mental, your emotional, your physical.
Wow.
So
this is really cool.
Yeah.
This is really cool. And again, I just want to state my ankle isn't completely healed.
Yeah.
It's not like I woke up the next day and my ankle was healed, but I had significant more abilities and I could go up steps unassisted. And I'll still take another 2 weeks for my ankle to fully recover. But I was pretty stunned by how much better I got after that energy healing.
Mm-hmm.
And so for people to understand your work, Dawn, firstly, we know where to find you on Instagram, the.new.dawn. You do Kundalini activations. I'm guessing you do it for groups as well as individuals.
Yeah, I do groups in person, and then also I do one-on-ones in person as well as through Zoom online. So I do the same thing. One-on-one sessions through Zoom, and then also group sessions through Zoom as well.
And the ratings that my audience gave you when you were doing this at Mindvalley University was so amazing. We just booked you. You were the first speaker we booked for Mindvalley University 2025. That's going to be happening in Amsterdam. So congratulations, because the reviews were just through the chart. So if you come to Mindvalley University in Amsterdam, Dawn is going to be, it's a two-week event. Dawn's going to be doing anywhere from 4 to 6 Kundalini Awakenings for the group. Okay, and then if you are a conference organizer and you want someone who can really bring this unique protocol, she's the person to talk to. And then also you do energy healing sessions.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I do all kinds of energy healing sessions. So, well, predominantly I work with the Kundalini energy, and I layer it with the other modalities that I've learned in my life, like pranic healing, Reiki, quantum healing. So there's so many different modalities.
Yeah. Now, I'm curious about healing. Can this happen remotely through Zoom, or do you have to be in the same location as them?
Yeah, it can be remotely through Zoom. And what I've noticed is that when you receive a Kundalini activation in person, or any of the other energy modalities that I do, you experience it just as deeply as in person through online. Yeah, there's
so you can do this online too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Why do you think that's so? Why do you think Kundalini Awakenings and energy healing sessions work online?
Yeah. Well, because we're in our mind, we are limited to the fact that we need to be in the physical space.
Right.
When energy moves through anything, energy is made of everything, right? So we're not limited by the location. That's our mind saying that we're limited.
I see. And
so when people actually experience it through online, whether they're on different parts of the world, I have several clients that live in the opposite direction of where I live, Like I have clients in Asia, I have clients in Australia, and they still feel physical impacts in a very acute way through online. It's because energy flows everywhere. It's just our mind that says that we're limited by this.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's something else I want to ask you. I've known Dawn for 14 years, and I think in that 14 years I've maybe had maybe 10 or so sessions with you in 14 years. And there was this other thing that you did once that was really intriguing. It was called a cord cutting.
Yes.
So let me just tell the story. And do you still do that type of thing?
Yeah, I do. I still do.
Okay, so we'll talk about that in a moment because I'm curious to understand this as well. So there's this idea that we form energetic bonds with people. The energetic bond could be with a business partner. It could be with a lover. And these bonds can be good. These bonds can also be bad if that person is in a way bad to us. So I had a falling out with a business partner, and we wanted to, I wanted to buy his shares and take back the company. But we couldn't agree on the terms. And so it was just one of those awkward situations where we were stuck together contractually. I'd made an offer. He was making a counter offer. Neither of us could agree. And so I happened to ask you for advice, and you said you have an energetic bond with your business partner, because I'd known this man for over a decade, right? We'd been friends. We'd gone into business together. And you told me that you'd be able to cut that bond using a concept called cord cutting. You said we form cords with people who are important in our life. So you did this ritual. I can't really remember, but it involves incense, and you were doing something with your hand. Now, as I was doing it, I was really skeptical. I was thinking, this is like magic. This is magical thinking. But the very next day, my partner got to me and said, okay, I'm ready to sign. And the very next day, that contract was signed. And so we'd been in dispute for a long time. Very next day, within 24 hours, it was resolved. So what was going on there?
Yeah. So with the cord cutting, it's when clients come to me, the one thing I ask of them is like, are you really ready to sever this tie and this connection with this person? And there's two ways to connect cords with. One is emotional and one is a sexual bond.
Right.
And so in this case with your partner, it was an emotional bond because through your work and all that stuff, like, emotions can come arise and all that stuff. And when you have emotional connection with somebody or a sexual connection, it's like a 2-lane highway that you're sharing energy with a person. Then that's how the cord is established. And so in this case, it's an emotional bond between you and your ex-partner. And when the energies become really imbalanced, where somebody is giving or somebody is taking too much, that's when somebody might want to get a cord cutting, because one, they want to sever this relationship. Number two, they're ready to move on. They don't want to continue to relive this experience. So I always ask my clients, like, are you really ready to let go of this person out of your life and ready for it to take a new shape or new form of relations with that person, or never to see them ever again? And so some people, when they come to me, they're a little bit apprehensive. So I say, take your time and make sure you're very clear, because once you do this ceremony and this clearing of energy, you want to be clear so you can move forward in your life. Otherwise, what's the point? If you're going to come to me and we do the work and you call this person back into your life again and relive the experience, that means you're not learning the lesson. That means that we're ready to let go. So this healing modality is profoundly effective, as you experienced, when you're really ready to let go and move forward.
And does that person disappear from your life?
They don't have to always, but in certain instances, they will disappear because that spiritual contract or that physical contract is now finished. Right. Where you guys were supposed to work together for a certain period of time, and now it's helping you to fast track whatever that was, like you were in this same cycle, right?
Yeah, and I think after we signed that contract, we still saw each other, but we were no longer operating as business partners, and there was peace.
Yes.
There was a general peace.
Yes.
Now,
generally there is peace, by the way, when people get a cord cutting.
I see.
When you feel like you're done and you want to move forward, whether it's with a romantic partner, a family member, or a work relationship, if you feel at peace and you're ready to move forward, when you cut and clear that energy, then you too can move in peace, and that pattern won't repeat it again.
So is it important to cut cords with sexual partners? I mean, let's say the partner isn't a bad person. You're still staying in touch. You're still friends.
Right.
You mentioned that we still form a cord, right? Every time we have sex with someone.
Yeah.
Is it important to always cut that cord?
I think it's important, especially to cut cords with people where there's energetic imbalances or emotional imbalances, or if there's struggle and strife between two. But if you're still like friendly and good terms with somebody, then you might not necessarily want to cut your cord with that person. But say if you want to just clear yourself of everyone's energy, then that's when you would want to do a cord cutting.
Won't that make everyone leave your life?
No, that won't. Like, you can just reestablish the connection.
I see.
By just connecting with them, right? And just having conversations, having dinners, going out. But there's positive cords and there's negative cords. So the positive cords, like you're explaining about past lovers that are relationships.
Or close friends.
Close friends. Then those are positive influences. So you don't need to cut cords for somebody that has a positive influence. It's for people where they're not positive influences and they're still pulling on your energy or sucking energy out of you. Like basically they're energetic.
So is that a thing? Our energy bodies influence other people's energy bodies?
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
And we can be influenced for good or for bad?
Yes. Yeah, we can definitely be influenced for good and bad. And even if people are at distances, we can, live in our day-to-day life, and then, we're feeling great. Everything's going throughout our day great. We're eating good food, we're moving, and we're flourishing. But then all of a sudden we start to feel like this negative energy, like pulling at us, maybe in the form of like our energy starts to lower. We feel lethargic. We start to have negative thoughts. And all those things, those can be external influences because that relationship isn't a healthy relationship. And so in that case, you want to clear that energy out because they're using you as a physical representation of being codependent on you and your energy.
So Dawn, thank you. We'll wrap up this conversation. This was really beautiful. I really enjoyed this. And what I enjoyed about this conversation is that I could ask you questions and speak about things which some people would say is non-existent, right? Or demand scientific evidence. But I really love this conversation because we could discuss experiences that I personally had, many of which are through your work that are just inexplicable. And thank you for giving me that space to share. And likewise to the audience, thank you for having an open mind and allowing us to talk about these ideas. Sometimes I keep these ideas to myself because I'm afraid of what people will think. But I really enjoyed being open with you and the audience. If anyone in the audience would like to get a session from you or reach out to you or maybe book you for an event, they should go to your Instagram, correct?
Yes, yeah.
the.new.dawn.
Yes.
Perfect. And then what should they do? Follow you and message you?
Yeah, follow me and message me.
Okay,
yeah.
Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you, Dawn. And thank you for being a gift to the world.
Oh, thank you for having me. This is so awesome.
And those of you attending Mindvalley events, you'll be seeing a lot more of Dawn at our events doing her magic. This is Vishen, the founder of Mindvalley, and I hope you enjoyed that particular podcast episode with Dawn Hoang on Kundalini Awakening. Now, if you happen to be watching this podcast and it's September 2024, I want you to know that in just a few weeks, Mindvalley's luxury festival, A-Fest, kicks off in Ibiza. And Dawn is one of the amazing facilitators that are going to be there. And Dawn is actually going to be doing Kundalini Awakenings for the 150 to 200 people who will be attending A-Fest. If you found this episode interesting and you want to come and personally meet Dawn, as well as experience a Kundalini Awakening, A-Fest is for you. All the information is on afest.com. This A-Fest explores the intersection between consciousness, sexuality, and manifesting. And it's a really unique theme. We like exploring topics on the edge. Go to afest.com, and if you enjoyed this podcast, this may be the journey that you need to take your life to the next level. Perhaps I'll see you at A-Fest.